a couple of the things that I wanted to ask you, because when I think about the Remy wines, I think why did you decide? Was it a business decision? Was it part of your interest in wine, or was it where did it come from that you decided to be an Oregon winemaker that doesn't make Pinot Noir?
Well, I fell in love with Italian varietals in Pittsburgh, of all places. And I'd worked in the wine industry as a child, more or less. I mean, hung around, loved it, and then started working as soon as I possibly could. And all through high school, I'd worked in the wine industry and, loved everything about making wine, Oregon wine. But after this short time of being in Pittsburgh, I had this experience where everybody made their own wine, regardless of what they would drink that was produced commercially. It was just culturally, everybody made their own wine. And I loved that. So when I came back, and I was working at Argyle, you see all through here, grapes and made them at home. So we'd be processing like 1,000 tons at Argyle, and then I would go home and be making my 1 ton of Sangiovese at night. And in Pittsburgh, that's what we made, all Italian varietals. Like they shipped in the grapes from California, but they brought in Sangiovese and Barbera and Alicante and Nebbiolo and anything, and it was just all mixed together, and it was great. And so I produced those wines for a few years, and including Syrah, because I started working with this vineyard, and it was their first season, and so they were, Syrah just kind of came into the mix that way. And I distributed those wines to friends and family. Friends and family happened to be a lot of restaurateurs and winemakers and other people in the wine industry, and they were really well received. And so when I decided to launch the winery commercially, it just made sense. It's like it was natural. I wanted to make what I wanted to drink, and not that I don't want to drink Oregon Pinot, but there's a lot of great Oregon Pinot out there. And I just didn't need to try to make Oregon's new best Pinot. It wasn't I wanted to do my own thing. And of course, at that point, I had realized that there were a number of Italian varietals that did grow very well here, and other varietals that grew very well here in the Pacific Northwest. And so the idea also came that it was like, why stop exploring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was curious about that, whether you were able to source enough fruit out of Oregon with the varietals that you're interested in making, or was it what you chose to make predicated upon what was available here, or were you seeking out sources for Barbera and Sangiovese?
I was seeking out sources. It's a little bit of a mix of the two. Some things happened upon me, and other things I sought out. So the Lagrine, Illahee Vineyards called me and said, our Lagrine's going to be online for the first time this year. We know you're really interested in Italian varietals, obscure ones especially, so this seems like a good fit, and it was. The Barbera, I sought out Barbera, and I looked for a long time until I found that right kind of grower relationship. So yeah, a little of both.
And so you have some long-term contracts now, so you can continue to make those?
I do.
Yeah.
I do, and I've been working with the same vineyards and the same blocks of fruit every year since I started the winery, with the exception of my Sangiovese production, and that I've moved around because Sangiovese is something that's planted much more widely in Oregon and Washington than other Italian varietals, and so it made sense to play with Sangiovese from Southern Oregon and Eastern Washington, and Willock Slope, and just play with all these different areas. And it's not just that it was widely planted. There was, Sangiovese. There was Piccolo, and there was Grosso. There was all this. There's a lot of Sangiovese here. So everything else, I have these long-term contracts to do. Same fruit every year. Sangiovese, I've played around with a lot of different vineyards. Although this past year, in 2010, I brought in Sangiovese from 3 different vineyards all at the same time, so that I could kind of try to have a slightly more controlled experiment to nail down who I wanted to work with on a long-term basis. And I think I did.
You think you did? Awesome.
I think I did.
Well, thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll do the tasting.
Okay, sounds good.